Aloha! This is video number 2 for paper construction. This focuses on embellishments. The techniques I'm going to teach you can be used in mask making, 3D paper construction, or adding to any project including paper mosaic designs, pretty much anything your imagination comes up with. Let's get started. So materials that I would need. Pencil, always very important to use and have around. You never know when you're going to need it. Scissors. While there are techniques of folding and tearing paper, scissors are pretty handy, but make sure you're using age-appropriate scissors with parental permission. Having your adhesives nearby are pretty important. This is how you're going to stick your project together. So you might be using glue, okay? You might use the liquid glue, you might use stick glue. If you do use glue, remember you have to either hold it or attach something to keep it together until the glue is dried. Otherwise your project might spring apart. Tape is very useful. This is common masking tape. Not the prettiest tape to use on a project, so I prefer to put it on the inside of a project. Today I'll use it for quick putting things together other than glue, but if I do use masking tape, I tend to use it on the inside. Clear tape would also be an option for you. My paper, you can use a variety of paper. These are just scraps from other projects. You can use lined paper, white paper, you can use newspaper. Any kind of paper that you have laying around the house, this is a good way to recycle it. Okay, the first item I'm going to teach you are loops. So a loop is just that. It almost has a teardrop shape to it. Last video I showed you how to make a circle or a cylinder or a tube, whatever you want to call it. So this is a loop. Just take a piece of paper. I use a scissoring motion with my fingers and I rub it along there to give it a slight curve just to make it slightly easier, but it is not a necessary step. In this case I am using tape, so I match up my sides, use a little tape, put the tape on there. Now I can use this in so many different ways. I can use it stacked up with other loops, creating a really neat effect. I can bend the edge and then use that to help attach it so that they stand up. Your imagination is your limit. The next thing I want to show you are curls. So this is just kind of a big curl. Okay, these are easy to do. Again, I could work with it this way. That would just take a very long time. Okay, I can roll it on my fingers. This is a quick, easy, I don't have much materials or extra things to use, so I would create like a really big curl. I can use markers with it. I can use a pencil. So if I want my curl to be a little bit tighter, now my curl's a little bit tighter. I can put it down this way. I can attach it on its side. There's so many different options on the curls. An extension of the curl is whenever you create a fringe. This part is really great when you're trying to make masks and so forth and you're putting hair and other items. So this is a fringe using curls within it. This is a pleated fringe. So I'm going to show you how that works. So when I take my paper and I want to make a fringe, the first thing I like to do is I give myself a border. That's the no cut zone. I don't want to cut past that because I want to be able to attach it to other items. I create my no cut zone and then I cut my fringe. Depending on the use for your fringe, you might have thin strips cut, you might have thick strips cut, you might vary it if you want more of a textured look. There's my fringe. Pretty cool, huh? From there, I decide what I need to do. If I want to do curls, I would do exactly what I did earlier, and I could curl it around my finger, marker, a pencil. Once it's cut, you almost have to do it individually. You can do more than one at a time. That's totally up to you. The pleated is where it's folded. It's that fan fold a lot of people like to do, where you're folding back and forth. Now when I do a pleated, depending on my materials, I would also often pleat ahead of time and then cut. But if you forget and you decide, ooh, I want pleated, that's okay. You just fold back and forth in a fan fold. And if you fold it different ways, the texture you get is going to be varied and kind of cool looking. So that might be a design that you might want to experiment with and have fun with. So that is a fringe. Spirals. Spirals are a lot of fun. A spiral, though when we talk about a spiral, we think about it as being a circle. It doesn't necessarily have to be a circle. It can be in the shape of a rectangle, but spirals either way are a lot of fun because you can do so many different things with it. So this is a spiral I've already done, and this is actually 2 spirals in one. So I had my original spiral and then I cut back through it again to get a second spiral out of it. So I will show you how to do that. You choose your starting spot. If you want to be able to separate your spiral and have another one, you want to make sure your spaces are wider so that you have room to cut back in. So I would call this almost a closed spiral because when you look at it, you don't see where the edges are very well. But when you take it up, you can separate it out. You definitely can see where your spiral is at. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make a second spiral out of my first, I simply go back and cut the same way, just reducing the width of what I've already cut. Till I get to the point where I'm happy. So now my closed spiral is much more open, and I have a second spiral that I can do anything with, and these can pop up. They can be glued down on a project for a neat effect. Your imagination is your limit. Now with all these extra things that you've learned how to do, how can you use them in another project? So let me show you. I made a triangular prism last video. If I add slots, so a slot is a cut within a structure, okay? If I add a slot, which I did here, and I can add another one, it's just a small cut. I can make it as wide or as narrow as I want, but it gives me a little bit of space to work with. So if I created that, I have this really neat curl that I made. I can easily slide my curl, part of my curl in there. And now I've made something that looks like it has a tongue. If I add a little top to it and find a way to adhere that, whether using slots or I can use tape to tape it down. Now it looks like I've made a little character. It doesn't want to sit up there. Make a little character that looks like it's having a party. Okay, I can do the same thing with my fringes. I can add a slot. I can tape it down. So if I wanted to, I can say, oh, let's have some pretty cool looking hair going on here. So I can do something like this, put it on the inside. Now I have some fringe. Now I'm really going with a party theme here, aren't I? Cutting a few extra pieces, I can make eyes, I can make anything I want. I can give it some feet using my extra little pieces. And I could just keep on going. So I could give it some feet and just keep on going and keep adding. I can create more and more structures by adding more and more pieces using slots. I can glue things, tape things together. I would love to see what you create. So have some fun and good luck. Aloha!